Jared Sullinger.
It's a low risk for a high reward.
He's a top 10 talent, Jared Sullinger.
Jared Sullinger, born March 4th, 1992. When asked how it felt to leave college after his sophomore year to enter the NBA draft, Jared Sullinger said, "That was the last pure form of basketball you could play. When you get to this level, everything gets kicked in. You never know if a team is going into a rebuild. You got draft picks they want to develop. There's so many things that goes into this game of basketball when you get to the pro level, so it flies under the radar how much you appreciate college basketball until you're out of it." And he couldn't be more right. Part of it, which actually helps stunt his growth, we'll get to later, but a piece of that quote that stands out to me is how much of a difference professional basketball can be for a player than as an amateur. Of course, the obvious money, more free time, status, but mindset-wise and understanding how fast basketball moves at that point, and that no one in that business truly cares whether you have what it takes to succeed on that level or not, is the most important thing to understand. It's first, are you available, and then, are you able? If you're not even one of those, you'll be left behind for someone who is, and that's what has Jared Sullinger out of the league since 2018 and almost a guarantee never to return at 30 years old. The game, as far as his NBA clock, has left him so far behind with so much baggage that it would be impossible to convince a team, a 30-year-old, undersized center who washed out the league and hasn't played in 5 years at that level, that's also an extreme injury risk, is better than the under 25-year-old prospects they come across every year. This was not supposed to be the story written about Sullinger leaving high school, where he was rated top 5 in his class, the best in his state and position, and a McDonald's All-American. One that won the game's MVP along with Harrison Barnes. Sullinger had huge expectations at that point, even though it was obvious with his lack of size and athleticism, things would have to go in his favor not to be exposed as now a little fish in a big pond who can't stay healthy enough to prove otherwise. He was last seen in the CBA scoring 55 points and 20 rebounds in a league far less talented that he could hold the ball as long as he wants, doing Jordan poses and little man gestures as he dominates the competition in what's almost like a facade that you can do that same thing in the NBA. But he's still undersized, still plays much under the basket when the NBA is at its most athletic, and as far as I can see, still hasn't transitioned to a smaller position that instead of being a liability, he's an advantage at. He's had all the opportunity in the world leaving college, damaged as he was, still being a first-round pick to a storied franchise with aging veterans that could help him develop faster, yet his NBA career looks to be over. What happened to Jared Sullinger? Salute to Don't Do It To Yourself for this request. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth. Let's get it.
Y'all ready to keep this thing moving?
Jared Sullinger is a 6'9" center from Columbus, Ohio that got into basketball because of his former high school and college basketball coaching father, and also his older brother that played at the same Ohio State program Sullinger would ultimately choose. He was everything you'd want to be in high school as a player, including going undefeated his senior year, being an all-everything, and ranked the second best prospect in his class by ESPN. Leaving high school, there was no doubt he would head to Ohio State, following Big Bro and his father's wishes, having the connections he had with the university and Thad Matta. It turned out to be a great decision, until the decisions weren't so great. Stunt number 1, staying too long. When it turned out not such a smart move was when Jared thought coming back to school for his sophomore year, due a lot to his father's advice and wants, was a good idea. In hindsight, it's more clear because throughout the year, Sullinger himself said his body began to fail him out of nowhere. As a freshman All-American coming into the program, Jared was the man from day one. He debuted with 19 points and 14 rebounds and led his team to a 34-3 record and the regional semifinals. He averaged 17 points and 10 rebounds, and by the end of the year, projected to be a lock top 10 pick. After the upset by Kentucky in the tournament, Sullinger's father quickly let it be known that Jared was returning to Ohio State, in his words, to further develop, especially at the power forward position, because at his height, he couldn't be a viable NBA center. The latter part, he was correct. There's just no way Jared would be a dominant center with his combination of lack of height and athleticism. Add to that a body that even on appearance doesn't seem physically fit to be trusted on the NBA level. Sullinger's father wanted him to move to the 4 and get development there. My thing is, how much development could he have gotten staying one more year in a position he's never played in his life? All these years being around the NBA radar, and now is when you figure out your correct position? He says all this while speaking with the New York Times, and throughout the article it just seems his reasons were too based on his own expectations for his son and not what was actually best for Jared. So what happened? He's plagued with back and foot injuries his sophomore season, no real statistical improvements, and ended up sliding in the draft because teams weren't sure his back was okay and they were correct. He later had surgery in his rookie season because of his bad back. Sullinger said in his sophomore college season, there would be games it was like he was playing on one leg, how bad injury got for him. Leaving after year 1 with no injuries would have put him top 10 and a much bigger focus on an NBA team. Probably one without 4 future Hall of Famers where he could develop like Pops wanted while getting significantly more opportunity.
State gets the win 74-66, but unfortunately, Sullinger would end the day on crutches.
Stunt number 2, the wrong mindset. In the same article, Jared goes on to say exactly what led to him falling behind his peers and a huge reason he washed out too soon. That mentally he never adjusted to the reality of being a professional instead of still living in the dream of, wow, I made it to the NBA. You hear professional NBA players say it all the time that you don't want to just get there, but stay there. But kids rarely listen to what's beaten into their heads. At some point, they tune it out as information they already have, so why listen? But as a young prospect, you need to write that down and repeat it every day, because forgetting that, like Sullinger did, can have you where Sullinger's at. Instead of focusing on getting better, he allowed everything around him to wow him and also lose sight of how cut and dry the business is. They're not going to baby you as some top prospect like high school and college did. Now you're just another guy, a rookie coming for some veteran spot. After returning from back surgery, he had 2 good seasons in 2013-14 and 2014-15, averaging 13 plus and 8 rebounds, but even he admits that he wasn't doing enough to get better, mainly because he was still lost in the moment. Stunt number 3, regressing physically. Physical health should obviously be the most important tool a person that plays sports for a living has, but one you see neglected far too often. Whether consciously or not, Sullinger's health, which was never right, continued to regress after those 2 standout years where he played like a first-round pick. In 2015, he was ruled out right after the All-Star game because of a foot injury that required surgery and cost him the rest of the season. He attempted to return, but the injury was too much and left him on the sideline. At the end of the 15-16 season, the team pulled their qualifying offer that would have made Sullinger a restricted free agent and allowed him the freedom to do as he pleased on the unrestricted market. He signed a 1-year, $6 million contract with the Raptors in July, and by October, he was already having foot surgery to put screws in his body. He missed all but 11 games that year and was traded to the Suns, who waived him the next day. He's been in the CBA ever since. All in all, Jared was a bit misguided, it seems, leaving college and in the NBA, where he wasn't prepared for what life there would be like. His body was obviously one you couldn't let go physically, or it could be a train wreck like it was in hindsight. He was solid when he played, but unfortunately, far too often, he just couldn't and lost his opportunity. Salute, much respect, but for these reasons, Jared Sullinger's growth was stunted. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth, and I'm out.